Was supposed to be Unfraus. Oh, well. What little I remember from German in high school. Good morning, everybody. I thought I'd be rebellious, and rather than take Spanish, we had two choices in my high school back in the day, German or Spanish. And I thought I'd be rebellious. I'm going to learn German. Ha ha ha. And now I can't remember but a few key phrases and maybe some, a couple swear words um, that I was taught outside of the class. Okay, okay, the silence. We're not talking about them big, goony looking weirdo rejects from the Scream painting that, Moffat rolled out. And they were creepy, the silence. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the silence in the media. The silence coming out of the halls of the BBC, and the silence, just in general about what's going on. Now, from what I'm hearing, though, a lot of these negotiation stories, and I got this direct from a good source, about being in negotiations with another streamer, it turns out all those are pretty much hogwash. No one has heard from Disney. There's been no sit downs with Disney as far as anyone can tell. There's been no meetings with Disney to find out what's going on. But from what I'm hearing, there are, talks going on in the halls of the BBC that are not getting out about wanting to some way to save the show. And this is not, beyond belief, because remember, the Doctor Who is one of the BBC's biggest cash cows. Yeah, but Call the Midwife wasn't making money across how many nations? Ask anybody over here. If I walked around Lima right now and I asked anybody around here, you ever watch Call the Midwife? They go, huh? Is that like The Handmaid's Tale? No, I'm not kidding. Total radio blackout. What do you mean? I have no idea what anybody's talking about a blackout. What I'm talking about is the silence in the media. There's nobody, it seems to be, really talking. I know there's a bunch of people harping on the confused guy pose or whatever in Tharis for being in a picture with Ian Levine. And I'm like, and? It's like, so what's the big deal? Me, I don't know how I'd pose for a picture with Ian Levine. Here's the guy who, for 1 minute, like I said, was saying Doctor Who 1963 to 2017, and he's not watching it anymore. Yet Fugitive of the Jadoon airs, and it's one of the most the best ever episodes he's ever seen. Rates it highly, which really sent a shockwave. And you see, that's what makes me die laughing was the Disney negotiations. I remember mentioning those all the way back when Jodie was still the Doctor. So no, you can't declare RTD the high grand poobah of bringing Doctor Who. Like I said, he brought Doctor Who back, which is a good thing. But no, the Disney talks were going on long before he took back over. And what gets me is I'm dying laughing. Like I said, one of my favorite posts out there was somebody did a picture of Chibnall and said, "You all need to be apologizing to this guy. You owe this man an apology." And I'm not saying all of the past two series were horrifically bad. It was like any other series of Doctor Who. You get your stinkers and you got your great episodes that everyone's going to remember. But the problem is the finales did not deliver. The finales were nowhere near in the range of what RTD's capable of. He took two classic villains and turned it into, like somebody posted in the comics. I can't remember this page or another, or this channel. he took two classic Who villains and turned them into easily defeatable CGI villains. And I've been going bald. I've been going bald since like my 20s. So I wish they'd had a human guy actually doing, Sutek. Yeah, sure, the Sutek big fat ugly Anubis dog was scary, but and of course the fact they brought back the original voice of Sutek, but the Empire of Death, really? That was well, we solved that in 5 minutes, didn't we? Like, my God, it was just terrible. And I can't believe I rated it so highly. I went back and I rewatched it, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Because when I started to really break it down, I'm like, my doctorate is in love, Simon. The love doctor is about to speak. Well, here's the thing. No, Doctor Who, as far as I know, has not been shelved. From what I'm hearing, there are talks going on behind closed doors, and they're not talking to other streamers or anything like that. There are talks going on in the halls of the BBC about how to save the show. The problem is there's a couple people who aren't going to like it. No, thank you. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. I'm not kidding. That's like an alien planet name I would make up. Well, I could talk to you about the planet Baldus. Wait, the Green Mile's getting a sequel. Okay, that's news to me. I know. The problem is you walk in, you think, okay, this is RTD, right? Look at the finales he's given us in the past. Fantastic writing. And then that happens. But then again, I've had that happen with some of Stephen King's, books. There's, the man's a spectacular author, but there's just some where he completely, went off the reservation. And, I didn't like. But at the same time, I still enjoy a King story. It's just the way he brings you into a story. And I said RTD was great at that. And then I do wear hats, but not at work. It's too damn hot outside here for one. Like I said, Dave, if you want, hang on, I think. See, there's some of my hats in the back seat. See, look. Got my flat cap, got my wake up, got my stars and stripes. I usually wear the stars and stripes ones to mow the lawn. That way I don't burn my head. Okay, well, I don't owe you money. I've never asked anyone for money to do this. Yeah, JMS. I think it's with a C, Straczynski. A C and a Y. I can't remember how it goes. I can never get his first name right, so don't feel too bad. I just, for some reason, called him Joe or John or whatever. I think it's Joe, but I keep... Well, if you're ashamed of who you are, I don't know how to help you. The wisest words I ever got were from Game of Thrones. And that was when, Tyrion tells Jon Snow, take it, wear it like armor, that way no one could ever hurt you. Guys, I've been fat my entire life. I've been bald for 30 years now. There's very little you can say to me to make me feel ashamed about either one. I can't find a single picture going back to childhood where I've been thin. It just never was in the cards for me. I am who I am. Big deal. Well, what I loved most about, like I said, everyone's harping on Chibnall. I will take Power of the Doctor, hands down, over Dump of the Doctor, aka Day of the Doctor, aka Era of the Zygons, any day of the week. I will take anything over the 60th anniversary specials we got. I will take Power of the Doctor over all those, hands down. Because Chibnall got it right. Chibnall did it the right way. That's how you do an anniversary special. And the sad part is, it was the centenary BBC episode. And it still kicked the ass, as far as I'm concerned, off all the other anniversary specials, except, like I said, for maybe the classics, because I'll always love the 3 Doctors and always love, the 5 Doctors, even though Tom wasn't a big part of it. Like I said, for me, the best part of Day of the Doctor was like the 2 or 3 minutes that Tom Baker was in it. That was about it. Yeah, like I said, I don't mind when the Doctor goes dark, because you got to remember, you're dealing with a being who's thousands, if not now known to be millions of years old. There are now, if he loses it, there's no consequences. There's nobody in the universe who can touch him. And it just takes, just that right amount of stuff to really, tip that person over the edge. Like I said, oh God, please, I'm now thinking, goodness, I am thinking every power that can be that RTD didn't touch the Valyard or any of that. And if there was an original, ending with Susan and, little Poppy being her mom, I'm so glad that did get erased, if that's the case. Because it would have been absolutely garbage. It would have been a bigger pile of garbage. Yeah, that's why I refer to Era of the Zygons, aka Dump of the Doctor, as the 8th anniversary special of the new series, because yay, look, you brought back the Zygons and ruined them. Now a Zygon can shapeshift from anything from a freaking killer bunny rabbit, like in what do you call it, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, to a horse. And they don't need a machine to do it, so I can have this conveniently stupid ending scene where, oh, everybody's forgotten what they are. I'm sorry, but even if you erase that, their biologies are going to be so different, it's going to be kind of obvious. How come I just turned into a giant suckerfish guy? Oh, that ending was terrible. Well, the Sea Devils weren't that bad. I liked what they did with the Sea Devils, and Legend or Curse or what, Legend of the Sea. Great, now I can't remember the name of the episode. At least they still look true to the original, unlike the Silurians. I can understand they wanted the actors to be able to emote and be more relatable to the new audience. That's why I kind of gave them a pass. Okay, the Buddhist Time Lord who assisted John Pertwee was Kampo Rinpoche, and his projection of his future self was Choji. Yeah, Kampo Rinpoche was a renegade Time Lord who left Gallifrey, came to Earth, adopted Buddhist principles, things like that, and yeah, like I said, they just, ugh. But like I said, right now, as far as Kampo, like I said, we never really found out unless it was in the books or something like that what happened to Kampo after that. So I'm definitely glad RTD didn't touch other Time Lords like the Monk, because he would have screwed up the meddling Monk. To all high hell. Hell, he didn't get the Ronnie right at all. He just wrote the Ronnie as an atypical master type template. And people are like, blah, blah, blah. There's like, guys, there's changing canon and then there's changing characters. When you change the Ronnie and you change Omega, Omega I always thought more of as a tragic figure. But, all right, like I said, just keep this in mind because I'm past my time. All talks about negotiations with other organizations, as far as I know now, it's pumpkins, it's mule muffins, it's buffalo chips, it's bullshit. But there are talks going on inside the BBC as to the future of the show. There has been no outright move to cancel it as of this moment. Yeah, he's the one who became Skeletor. Yes. But right now, I got to get inside. I got to get this day over, get tomorrow over, and then I'm off for a week. I'll try to pop in on you next week as much as possible. So please keep that in mind. We will not be here next week because that's my week off for vacation. I don't know what's going on as far as Disney at this moment, but as far as I know, Disney and the BBC have not come to a meeting or anything like that yet. So don't believe anything you hear yet. All right, take care, everyone. Be kind, be calm, be safe. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll see you all, hopefully, in the near future. Take care, everyone.